Last week certainly felt prickly, didn't it? We did have a full moon in Capricorn and Saturn stationed to go retrograde, bringing up Saturn and Capricorn themes. And the way that I was translating that for my clients and also in my own life is that there's an opportunity to look at how you are typically showing up for stress and an invitation to up level that response. But like any good boss, any good leader, which is our internal Capricorn and Saturn leadership, we have to learn from our mistakes, which means that the universe or your higher self was bringing you situations that were really uncomfortable, maybe confrontational. It felt to me like all of my edges were being pushed. It was like my higher self said, "Oh, yeah, this is getting on your nerves, huh? This old thing. All right, well, let's make it even harder. Let's turn up the dial a little bit and we'll see how you respond." Because with Saturn and Capricorn energy, we're always pushing ourselves to become better. It is the energy of success and of achievement. But if you want to achieve, you have to go through the gauntlet. You have to prove yourself. So last week felt like a week of proving that we knew what was going on and that we could respond in better and different ways. And that looks like taking personal responsibility, saying, look, this person in my life is a real struggle for me. I have a very hard time with the way that they show up. I can feel my nervous system being impacted by them. And I always go into a pretty predictable set of responses. And it doesn't really work for either of us. I'm just going to give you a few examples of archetypal people that you might have in your life that might have triggered you over this past week. So we have the control freak. Everybody has one of those. They need to be in charge. We always have to do it their way. They're micromanaging us. They're making us feel like we're inept and we don't know what we're doing or we're not doing a good enough job. Now you might be the control freak in your own life, and you might be the control freak in somebody else's life. So let's look at these archetypes as the potential for somebody else out there, but also our own inner version of that. Next up is the victim. We all have one of those, somebody that can't solve any of their problems. It's always about them. They're saying, I need help. I can't do it, expecting you to do the work for them. And we all probably have an inner victim as well of like, oh, poor me. I'm so wronged. Nobody ever does right by me, etc. And the narcissist, where it's always about them. If they're in a bad mood, everybody has to walk around on eggshells. If they're in a good mood, everybody else better be in a good mood too. If they need you to do something for them, you better be ready to do it. And we all have our own inner narcissistic qualities, right? Where we expect for people to fall in line and make us happy and do what we want them to do. Then there's the passive aggressive people, ones that don't come straight out and say, hey, this doesn't work for me. Instead, it's like, well, you did this and now I'm going to do that. Or you feel that they're coming at you with vindictive, retaliatory energy, and your own internal passive aggressive, where you're scorekeeping and harboring resentment. And then, of course, there's the chronic critic. Can't ever do anything right for this person. They have something to say about everything that you do. And of course, we all have our own internal critic as well that is criticizing others and ourselves. So which one of these showed up in your life? And maybe all of them showed up in your life last week. And hopefully those interactions, those situations pushed you to managing in a fresh way. So a personal example, I currently have a house full of teenagers that are home for the summer and their friends. And teenagers like to sleep in late and then get up and make big elaborate breakfasts and play music and leave their shoes in the middle of the hallway, as teenagers do. It is also 1,000,000 degrees outside. There are workers on the street working on the garden. Everywhere I go, there's somebody. And I try all my regular coping mechanisms. I go sit outside. It's hot. I try to go back in a private room of the house. It's too cold because of the AC. I try to go run errands. I'm sitting in traffic. I try to sit in front of my desk. My computer is really slow. And it was like everywhere that I went, the universe was pushing me and saying, that's not it. You are not here to figure out a way to distract yourself from the overwhelm. You have to figure out a way to work with the overwhelm in an elevated way. Like, how have you always done it before? Oh, you've tried to escape it. Okay, that doesn't work. Now, what you have to do is work with your own experience, your own mind, your own heart and soul. And you have to figure out a way to be in the overwhelm without letting it overwhelm you. So that's what I had to do. I realized it really came down to me and the way that I was thinking about it, my mindset. Every time that I would think, I'm stressed out, I'm in overwhelm, it would create more of the same. So this is very Uranus moving into Gemini too, because we're going through this whole shift in our perception. I had to learn how to perceive everybody around me and the heat outside in a way that was not going to make me insane. And it worked. So think about in your own life, what has happened over the last week that was about to push you over the edge? And how did you figure it out? So that instead of solving the problem through doing something, you just changed the way you saw it and you felt everything lighten up. So we're going to be talking about that this week. I'm Nafa Perkins of Electra Astrology. This is the path ahead. This is my astrology forecast. I am going to go through the astrology of the week. We're going to look at it through a psychological, spiritual, and astrological lens for you so that you can make sense of it, know what to expect, and then also what tools you might need to get your way through it, because 2025 is a pretty hectic year. I don't think any of us would deny that, but it is a year where we're being asked to use the tools that we have been learning over the past handful of years. This is like when you're doing your residency in the ER after you've graduated from medical school. It's like, hey, it's make or break. You got to figure out how to solve these people's problems if you're going to be a really good doctor. And so this is part of that Saturn stationing energy. Saturn says, do you want to be the best? Yes. Do you want to achieve what you came here to achieve as a soul? Yes. Okay. Well, you got to put it to work. So we're putting it to work. If you like my style and you would like to book with me privately, you can find me at electraastrology.com. And I say that we jump into the charts. So let's talk about this idea of being unconsciously competent, because that's what we're doing right now. And we are looking at Saturn just stationing to go retrograde in the sign of Aries. So Aries is about powerfully moving forward, knowing our passion and our purpose, having good boundaries, but also learning how to advocate for ourselves using what our gut tells us. Aries is a warrior, and warriors have to be really on top of it to know when to react and when to be still. These planets are both in retrograde. They are going to head back into Pisces, and Pisces is the spiritual lessons. The North Node is still in Pisces and will be for about another year. So this is not about you learning more about what you want. This is you connecting in with God as you understand God to be. This is really a pivotal point in your own history. You're coming to understand in a new way that there is no separation between you and this higher power. This higher power is within you, and it is guiding you all the time. Higher power is not what is outside of us. It is not what you see on social media or on the mainstream news or on TV. It's not in cultural conditioning. It's not what we see celebrities doing. It has nothing to do with anything out there. It has to do with our connection to what we're doing as a soul in this lifetime. If you are becoming awake and aware, you have an important mission to do. And the North Node in Pisces is reminding you of that mission. And this mission is not necessarily glamorous. We all say, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? And then we're looking for some shiny, prestigious thing. But what I've been seeing is that we are all practicing these tools, and that is the mission. And these tools are pretty boring and mundane and standard. Oh, I'm supposed to be practicing changing my perception around these little things in my life that overwhelm me. That's the mission. Okay. Or I'm supposed to be practicing listening to my body when my body says, no, I don't want to help this person. Like, that's it. Listening to my body, that's the mission. Or I'm learning how to be more present and just take deep breaths and chill out. That's the mission. Nobody wants the mission to be that slow. And honestly, if your mission feels a little bit like you're trying to get out of a net, you're on the right track. We're being tasked with dealing with these things that humans before us haven't been able to deal with. Instead, they have gotten very busy, they have been distracted, they have stayed stuck in their old patterning, they have stayed in addictive behaviors, they have blamed other people for their problems. Think about everybody in your life that has come before you that has been pretty dysfunctional. There was no way that they were going to actually learn how to communicate differently and better. No way were they going to sit with their pain and try to understand it and process it. But yet that's what we're here doing right now at this point on the planet. And it's not that exciting, but it is really, really important. So this is what I keep pointing out with the South Node in Virgo. Your inner doer, the one that doesn't want to be a burden, the one that feels like if you can just solve a problem doing something, that's the remedy. The one that thinks if you criticize somebody long enough, they'll finally fall in line. Or if you can just get enough people to do things for you, then you'll feel okay. If somebody shows you enough love, then you'll feel better. If somebody does something, then I can finally relax. Or if I do something, then I finally know it. That's the opposite of what we're looking at. We're looking at the spiritual lessons. When we have something that's attached to, I'll be happy then, that feels much easier than you're on a spiritual mission and there is no end to the journey. You're here to endure, to feel, to understand, to inquire, to process everything that comes through you. And you're here to do all of that in a very different way than you've done in the past. What do we do with that? That's really frustrating advice. And a lot of times when I'm doing readings for people and I say that, I can tell that they wish that I would say something more concrete. Like, yes, if you move to South Dakota, then your life will improve. You will find the love, you will find the job, you will have the family. Bam. Okay, great. That's a goal I can get behind. But when I say, sit with the restlessness, try to understand why you feel so compelled to move. What is it? What are you running toward? What are you running away from? Then we become less interested in doing the work. But it is in that very kind of work that will eventually solve your problem. So like I said, I'm feeling overwhelmed with too many people in my house and in my yard and all around. And it wasn't about me doing something that was going to finally solve the issue. It was about me understanding, why is this stressing me out so much? Why can't I just coexist with a bunch of people? Why do I need silence and stillness in order to feel okay? And I eventually got to the conclusion that I don't need silence and stillness in order to feel okay. That really, it's just about being with myself long enough to understand what's really happening, which for me, it really comes down to feeling like I need to manage everybody's thing. Got to make sure everyone has enough food in there. I have to make sure that if they want to talk, I'm available to talk. If they don't want to talk, I will be quiet. I have to make sure that I'm not pulling out in front of the utility workers and getting in their way. It's like, for me, when I'm around all of these people, my default is to go into making sure that I'm doing everything right. And that's exhausting. That's the exhausting piece. It's not the fact that it's all of these people around. And so when I get to that and I say, oh, this is me trying to manage everybody else's experience. And by the way, all of you empaths out there, you know what I'm talking about because you do that too. When you're trying to manage everybody else's experience, that's when the drain, that's when the exhaustion comes in. And when you remember and remind yourself, I don't have to do that. Everybody can figure it out themselves. It gets a lot lighter. So that's what we're doing. We are getting to the root of what is really happening. We're not getting to the end of the race. We're not getting to the end of the journey. We're figuring out, how did we end up on this journey in the first place? Now on the 17th, we see Mercury. It's retrograding at 15 degrees of Leo. Now, we've learned a lot about Leo stuff because Mars was retrograde in Leo for quite a while earlier in the year. Leo is teaching us about our own identity and our own vitality. Leo wants us to be courageous and bravely move toward the things that light us up. So there's something here with the mind, and we're working with Uranus and Gemini now. So our minds are going through distinct shifting around the way we perceive, We're learning that some of our bad habits, our poor communication skills, our criticisms, our narcissisms, our inner victim, they're predictable parts of ourselves, right? They developed when we were very young, and it's like, I'm under this kind of stress. So that means then my victim shows up, and now I am responsible for taking care of everybody else's emotions. And oh my God. Or I'm feeling stressed, and now I'm going to scan my environment, trying to figure out what's wrong. And then I'm going to let everybody know what's wrong because my judge has shown up. When those parts of us show up, are they really parts of us that we want to keep around? Are they the parts that help us understand our own creative nature? Are they the parts that bring us toward joy and excitement? No. Leo is a sign that teaches us about joy and excitement. It belongs in the 5th house, which is about laughter and love affairs, children, the things that make us feel buoyant. So as Mercury is retrograding through Leo, we'll be looking at about a 3-week period of examining, like, what are the neural pathways that I have that bring me toward putting on my, as I like to call them, my poop colored glasses. This sucks. I hate it when this happens. It always works out like this. Let's take those glasses off. We don't necessarily need to put on the rose-colored glasses where we're just idealizing and pretending that everything's okay and smiling our way through. We want to put on our reality glasses that say, hey, I'm pretty psyched to be in human form on this planet. Yeah, there's some stuff that's frustrating. And of course, I'm here to learn my soul lessons, and it's a lot of work. But man, there's some really cool things about being here. It's absolutely beautiful. These animals that I get to spend time with are like the most interesting beings. Have you smelled the flowers lately? Have you tasted the tomatoes? We get to be embodied. And there's so much beauty that comes with embodiment. Don't lose track of that. We're also very creative. And I think that's another thing that we're going to see watching Uranus in Gemini. We don't want to outsource our creativity to things like AI or to things like screens. And we've probably been doing that for a while. And now there's this renaissance of creativity. I don't have to limit myself. I don't have to make my creativity look like everybody else's. I want to have some fun with this. I want to engage in my life in a new way. And for all of us, we're going to land at what that looks like in different ways. If we get too caught up in everybody else's complaints and fears and problems, we really miss out on the beauty and creativity. So this is a time to get creative. And you can do that in little ways. Bless the home, do a land blessing, pack a picnic, take your family to a park and have a fun dinner. Take yourself to an art store and buy yourself some new colored pencils and a pad and go outside and color. Set a new intention for your day. Research chanting. Go buy yourself a mala and say 108 prayers every day for a week. There are so many really beautiful ways that you can engage with your creativity that are low money, low effort, but will bring so much beauty and newness into your experience. This is a time where we're being challenged. Do it differently. Try new things. And in the case of Mercury going retrograde in Leo, look at breaking your neural pathways that tend to lead you toward doom and gloom, woe is me, I'm always so tired, and really challenge yourself. I do a lot of readings for people who want change, and they're never able to really make it happen. So what are you willing to dedicate yourself to? Remember, Vesta is the asteroid of dedication. We each have a Vesta in our chart. I did some great talks on Vesta on Astrology for Awakening on my YouTube channel. You can just look up Vesta in your chart by going to astro.com, going under extended chart selections and look at the asteroid Vesta. It tells you a lot about your very specific and personal way of tuning in, of praying at the altar of you and what you're here to do. Vesta reminds you that in order to make the changes, you have to show up and you have to look at the deeper layers of the changes that you wish to make. If you are struggling to have fun, if you're struggling to be excited and inspired, why? What's blocking you? Are you willing to make the consistent, dedicated effort to unblock yourself? Now, speaking of the asteroids, we have Juno, which is the asteroid of long-term partnership. And this can be your partnership with yourself. This could also be your marriages or business partnerships. There's something about Juno where we dedicate ourselves as well. In this case, it's to our relationships. And Juno is the subject of a yod this week from the asteroid series here at 15 Aries and Venus at 16 of Gemini. And isn't this interesting? Because Venus is also relational. Venus is the part of us that says, I want something. I want to attract this thing or this person. And I want to be attractive. And this is what I'm desiring. And Ceres says, I know that I need to take care of myself. I have to be very mindful of everybody in my sphere that I'm trying to take care of and maybe disentangle myself from some of those. And here we are in conversation with our long-term relationships. So whether you're in relationship with another person or in relationship with yourself, there are some changes that are pushing to be made. Getting more clear on what your values are now, what you're attracted to now, and also getting clear on how much of your time and energy you are expending taking care of other people when they no longer need it. And can you turn some of that energy on the self and take care of the self? We see that Ceres here is in a trine, Venus in a sextile, and then Juno in a square to Mercury retrograde. So they're all connected. This is a week where you look at letting go of some of the control, the criticism, the blame, the need for people to perceive you in a certain way, the caretaking, and tune into how can I build some new neural pathways that support my own creative nature, that support my own values, and that direct me to dedicating myself to me and my higher power, my connection with this source energy, where I started this conversation. If we are one with source and source wants to experience itself through us, it's time to allow source to experience some lighter energy. And when we are taking responsibility, like this Saturn retrograde is asking us to do, when we're taking responsibility for the way that we perceive things, we come into a deeper contact with what's really going on. It frees up all of this space to be able to do all of the above. All right. I hope this was helpful. We'll see you all on Friday for my Cancer Capricorn teaching video on astrology for awakening. So check that out. I'm going through all of the facets of all of the sun signs on astrology for awakening. It's more than just astrology teachings. They're designed to help you see yourself and your patterns and your blind spots a little bit differently so that you can heal. All right. Have a good week.